Your church likely attracts one type of person really well and repels everyone else. You might not see it. Your visitors probably do. And here's what happens next in this case. People who think like that person feel at home. People who don't, they visit once and probably never come back. Or they stick around for a few months but eventually drift away because something just doesn't click. And no one can really quite put their finger on why. Here's why. The language you use becomes the culture you build. And if you've never consciously defined who you're trying to reach and how you should communicate with them, you'll unconsciously default to one type of person. Who? Usually whoever's been in charge the longest, or usually whoever the pastor is most like. And your church will become a haven for that one persona, but at the exclusion of everyone else. So how do you fix this? There's an easy exercise that I want to walk you through. And together, we're going to fill out this sheet that you're seeing. And what this will do is actually allow your church to be a place for a range of ages, generations, ethnicities, and types of backgrounds. So let me show you how it works. The big idea here is audience personas. You might be familiar with the concept. It's the practice of creating fictional profiles of people that your organization, in our case, our church, is positioned to serve. In church, it's not about customers, obviously, the way it would be in business. It's about the types of people that God has placed in your church's orbit. And here's how I saw one church describe this. Quote, "The congregation at Kings Harbor is primarily made up of families with children. However, as the church expands, we anticipate a wider range of individuals attending." So I love this language. It acknowledges the current makeup of the church, but recognizes that as the church grows, new types of people from different backgrounds and generations will cross paths with the ministry. Here's how I like to think about it. There are broadly 4 types of people that churches tend to encounter. First, there's new Nicole. Let's say she's 44, married with 3 kids. The oldest starts high school next year. She's been a stay-at-home mom for most of her married life, but she's doing a course now at the local college so that she can re-enter the workforce. Her marriage is challenging, home is chaos, faith is new to her, but it's given her an anchor in life that she's never had before. For her, direct communication with clear application points are going to help put her faith into action. Next, there's Kathy Christian. She's 55, a mother, a wife, plus a new grandmother. She has followed Jesus for as long as she can remember and has spent all of her life in church. Kathy is adjusting to a new season in her life. Church has always been a comfortable place for her, and she likes the rhythms that she is familiar with. She probably wouldn't admit it, but sometimes Kathy finds it difficult to bring fresh eyes to Scripture. She's most receptive to stories of faith and hearing about God's transformative power working in people's everyday lives. Okay, third, there is Seeker Sam. He is a barber in his early 30s, let's say. He practices jiu-jitsu in the evenings. He loves fantasy football. He's been dating a girl for a couple of years now. It's his first stable relationship. He's apprehensive about marriage, the idea of becoming a dad, because the examples that he's seen in his own family don't inspire confidence exactly. Sam has always been open to faith. He's come to church a few times even expressed interest in being baptized. Sam needs a greater foundational understanding of the Christian faith for it truly to be transformative in his life. That's the communication style he's going to resonate with. And then fourth, there is far away Fiona. She's in her mid-20s, in a stable relationship with a nice guy following a messy breakup. They've talked about marriage. Fiona works as an esthetician, but sometimes wishes that she had followed a path into holistic nutrition. She's open to spiritual things right now. That looks like sound bowl therapy, healing crystals, that kind of thing. Christian stuff has always felt a little too dogmatic for her. Fiona needs a communication style that is compassionate and leaves space for her questions so she can start to open herself to ideas that she has typically been closed off to. Okay, now, here's your task. These 4 personas are in your brand guide download linked in the description. You can give them new names. Just keep the alliteration. Which might sound silly. The alliteration, though, makes the personas memorable. And you can swap up the genders. These personas are meant to be gender neutral. If a person named Fiona doesn't sound like someone in your church's orbit, change it to Faraway Frank or Faraway Fabio. Here's the part I cannot do for you. You need to fill in their actual personas by replacing the placeholder text that I've provided because it needs to reflect your church's context. And the best way to do this is to think of a real person that fits each persona. The more specific, the better. I'll re-emphasize. I don't want you to imagine a person like this. I want you to think of an actual person that fits this profile and then describe them. Got it? If you try to come up with fake people, fake personas, this exercise will be a challenge. If you base them on real people you know, it'll take you about 30 minutes total. Again, don't copy mine, because mine are based on real people I know. You don't know them. I changed their names, of course. You should do the same. Each persona should have 3 parts. First, describe the person and their life. And then, describe the communication style they resonate with. Finally, identify how that communication style helps them put their faith into action. Okay, Next, now that we have our 4 audience personas, we are going to write down 4 statements that define what our church brand voice is and what it is not. And what I want you to do is base each of these statements in your personas, one for each person. So for example, I'm going to start with new Nicole, and this is the part of her persona I'm pulling from. Quote, her marriage is challenging, home is chaos, faith is new to her. From that, I'm writing down, our brand voice is not chaotic. Life is chaotic for new Nicole. The way we communicate as a church will not be. Next, Kathy Christian. When I was rereading her persona, the part that I was drawn to was the feeling of same old, same old. Now, that's not a great way to phrase it. So there's a tool I like to use for this. It's free. It's wordhippo.com. So what I did was I started by typing in what's another word for same old. And the one that felt most representative to me was routine. Now, that's still not exactly the perfect word. So I clicked on routine, and that brought up a new set of similar words. From there, I really liked the sound of cliched, so I clicked on that, which brought me to stale. And I thought, okay, yes, that is the word that I'm looking for. Thinking of a, slice of bread, something that was once fresh with a beautiful aroma, but over time has lost its flavor, lost its appeal. Our brand voice is not stale. Use that tool of WordHippo and that process I just showed you. It's great for finding the perfect word that might just be out of reach. We'll move to faraway Fiona now. Here is the prescriptive sentence in her persona. Quote, Christian stuff has always felt a little too dogmatic for her. Now, this is interesting, right? Because what is the definition of dogma? Basically, opinions that are so strongly held, they are presented as facts. And I can understand why faraway Fiona is turned off by that. But for me, a follower of Jesus, I don't necessarily view that as a bad thing. So we need to dig a little bit deeper here. What's at the heart of that presentation of the gospel that, to this point, has been inaccessible to faraway Fiona? And why is she open to maybe Eastern religions and their practices, but closed off to Christianity? And what I ended up writing down for this was, our brand voice is not elitist. Because to me, it's that, we're right, you're wrong feeling that faraway Fiona has seen as dogmatic. At its heart, though, that's just elitism. And I don't want our brand voice to embody that in any way. Finally, we've got Seeker Sam. Here's the line I want to hone in on. He's apprehensive about marriage and being a dad because the examples he's seen in his own family don't inspire confidence. Seeker Sam is the kind of guy that, to me, projects confidence, but you know that on the inside he's got his doubts about himself, doubts about the future, regrets from the past. He needs steadiness. He wants stability, even if he's scared of the idea. From this, I wrote down, our brand voice is not flaky. Now, what I love about this exercise is how it allows you to synthesize different audience personas who, on the surface, look like they might be at odds with each other, right? For example, faraway Fiona, she doesn't like dogma. But Seeker Sam and new Nicole, they need direct communication and a foundational understanding of the gospel. How in the world can those two things coexist? By understanding the timeless truth that it's not what you say, it's how you say it, right? The wisdom of Scripture, my belief, and surely your belief, is that it's for all people, for all time. So what are the roadblocks between people and the gospel? Remember, the language you use becomes the culture you build at church. And for our hypothetical ministry, our brand voice will not be chaotic, stale, elitist, or flaky. If that's what it won't be, what will it be? Well, let's repeat the process that we just went through, but this time from the perspective of the affirmative. Now, importantly, we don't simply want to use the antonyms or the opposites of the words that we just wrote down. Instead, we want to mine for new words that illuminate new voice traits for our church to embody. So, what am I trying to say? Well, if I just wrote down, our brand voice is not chaotic, what I won't do is next write down, our brand voice is ordered. That's just writing the same thing twice. It's not really going to help us practically. I want something different. Sure, it can be related, but it needs to stand on its own and be applicable in its own unique way. And for me, it's in the name, New Nicole. This whole Christian thing is not old hat. There might be insider words that she's never heard before. It's important to me that our brand voice then is accessible. Next, Kathy Christian. And the part of this persona that is so representative of people that have been in church for most of their life is the beginning of this sentence. She probably wouldn't admit it, ... That feeling of putting on a certain behavior or posture because that's what a good Christian church person does. I want our brand voice to challenge that, confront that. So I've written down, our brand voice is honest. For faraway Fiona, her word is actually right there in her persona description. We want to leave space for questions, and it's okay to not have everything figured out. Our brand voice is compassionate. And then finally, for Seeker Sam, this man likes combat sports. He loves his fantasy football. You can see with how he spends his time. This is a man longing for more, for a challenge, for a life of adventure and excitement. He just needs that called out of him, which brought me to this word, and I really like it. Our brand voice is galvanizing. We want to rouse people into action, closer to Jesus, toward a thrilling life of faith and purpose. And I want our communication to drip with that kind of energy. and personality. What are some common criticisms that people make about church? Oh, it's too wishy-washy. They don't really preach the Bible. That's one on one side. On the other side, we might hear, oh, that pastor rules with an iron fist. Two cliches, sure, but we're familiar with them nonetheless, right? What naturally happens is this. Over time, a church will hone in on just one audience persona by accident. Usually, again, the one the pastor is most like, and the church will become a haven for them at the exclusion of others. But the church is at its best when it is a place for a range of ages, generations, ethnicities, types of backgrounds. The language you use becomes the culture you build. By articulating what your brand voice is and is not, and by sourcing those words in the four audience personas, you create guideposts for your church to protect yourself from becoming too hospitable to one group while becoming hostile to the others. You can think about it this way. If all you were was compassionate in your communication, you'd be a haven for people that are searching, but you might never deploy those people into action. And if all you were was galvanizing, you might be too intense to ever welcome new people through the door. But when you pair being compassionate with galvanizing, you get both Seeker Sam and Faraway Fiona in the same room together, and the church is better for it. When you have your 8 stanzas, axioms, whatever you want to call them, our brand voice is this, our brand voice is not that, these become your measuring sticks for evaluation as well. As you review newsletter copy, as you think about how to present an announcement, you simply ask yourself, you ask the team, is this chaotic? Is it accessible? Is it galvanizing? These aren't words plucked out of thin air though. They're words that you chose because they resonated with you, but they first came from the lives of real people that you want to introduce to Jesus. The audience persona template and brand voice axiom framework is linked in the description for you to download. What I want you to do is complete the exercise I just walked through for yourself. All 4 personas, all 8 axioms. 4 for what your brand voice is, 4 for what your brand voice is not. It took me less than an hour to complete this full exercise from scratch while I was preparing for this video. And once you have it, share it with everyone on your team. And if you enjoyed this video, know that it is a partial excerpt from Pro Church Certified, our certificate program for creative ministry. What you just learned is from Module 3, Logo and Branding. To see the entire program plus workshops and downloads, you can head to prochurchcertified.com. 350 plus churches went through Certified in its first year, from solo volunteers in small town Iowa to creative directors at megachurches in Texas. Here you can see some of the students from year 1 with their certificates after finishing the program. One of these students said, quote, honestly, Certified was on the same level as the online graduate courses that I have taken. prochurchcertified.com, check it out. And thanks as always for your time, attention, and trust. Talk to you soon.